This is the AP Bio podcast for the immune system, aka defense and protection. The immune system is designed to defend against millions of bacteria, microbes, viruses, toxins, and parasites. Anything that does not belong in the body, the immune system should be taking care of it. What happens when you die? Your immune system completely shuts down. In hours, the body is invaded by bacteria. In a few weeks, the only thing that would be left of your body is a skeleton. But bodies being buried would be embalmed. This is not in your notes, and you don't need to know this, but this is just more for informational curiosity. The first step in embalming is obviously to check that the individual is in fact deceased. And then they'll verify the identity of the body. At this point, embalmers commonly perform basic tests for signs of death, noting things such as clouded over corneas, lividity, and rigor mortis, or by simply attempting to palpate a pulse in the carotid or the radial artery. In modern times, people awakening on the preparation table is largely the province of horror movies and just urban myths. Any clothing would be removed and set aside, and anything like jewelry would be inventoried. They usually put a modesty cloth over the genitalia. The corpse is washed in disinfectant and germicidal solutions. During this process, the embalmer bends, flexes, and massages the arms and legs to relieve rigor mortis. The eyes are posed using an eye cap that keeps them shut and in the proper expression. The mouth may be closed via suturing with a needle and ligature using an adhesive, or by setting a wire into the maxilla and mandible with a needle injector, a specialized device most commonly utilized in North America and unique to mortuaries. Care is taken to make the expression look as relaxed and natural as possible, and ideally a recent photograph of the deceased while still living is used as a template. The process of closing the mouth, eyes, shaving, etc. is collectively known as setting the features. For embalming, there's arterial embalming, which involves the injection of embalming chemicals into the blood vessels, usually through the common carotid artery. Cavity embalming, which is the removal of the internal fluids and the injecting of the embalming chemicals into the body cavity. The embalmer makes a small incision just above the navel and pushes the trocar into the chest and stomach cavities to puncture the hollow organs and aspirate their contents. He then fills the cavities with concentrated chemicals that contain formaldehyde. Hypodermic embalming is the injection of embalming chemicals under the skin as needed. Surface embalming, which supplements the other methods, especially for visible injured parts, would be taken care of. Okay, for the immune system, obviously it's for defense. So the first line of defense, these are the things that would happen first. There's 6 of them. First one is the skin. Obviously it's a barrier to the body. It's oily and acidic, so it'll allow things to not get in. Saliva and tears have antimicrobial proteins in them. Cilia on the lungs will help push things out to keep it clear. Gastric juices in the stomach they're acidic, so that will help clear the stomach. And then there are symbiotic bacteria that help with defense in the digestive tract and in the vagina. White blood cells. There are 3 classes of them. Granulocytes contain granules. These are your neutrophils, eosinophils, and vesses. We'll look at some of these. Lymphocytes is the second class. These are your B cells and your T cells. The B cells mature in the bone marrow. The T cells mature in the thymus. And then your third class of white blood cells are the monocytes, and these are also called macrophages. So first we're going to look at neutrophils. Here's a picture of them right there. That's a neutrophil, white blood cell. It is the most common white blood cell. It is attracted to foreign material, viruses, bacteria, etc. Inflammation, any inflammation it would go toward, and any bacteria. Once in contact, it will engulf it, phagocytosis, releasing enzymes and hydrogen peroxide to kill the bacteria. If it is a serious infection, a pus will form, which a pus basically is dead neutrophils and cellular debris. All right, the other 2 in that group was the eosinophils and the basophils. There's pictures of each of those. Eosinophils focus on more parasites on the skin and on the lungs. Basophils cause inflammation, which allows for more room for the white blood cells to fight infection. So they work a lot with the neutrophils. B cells and T cells. B cells mature in the bone marrow. They produce the antibodies that we have. T cells mature in the thymus. They bump up against cells and kill it. There are 2 types, the killer T cells and the helper T cells. This is not on your notes, so you need to add this. T cells bump up against cells and they kill it. Those are the killer T cells. They also detect cells that are harboring viruses and will kill them. The helper T cells will control and sensitize the killer T cells. So they work together. All right, another term are the macrophages. They're also called monocytes. These are the biggest white blood cells. They work in the tissues, and they clean up dead neutrophils and pus. All right, the next concept's kind of a difficult concept, but it's MHC, which stands for Major Histocompatibility Complex. And basically, it's a system in the body, it's a system in the immune system with the white blood cells. And they work to make sure that the white blood cells know when to attack and when to leave it alone. Vaccinations, another term we studied when we did viruses. Vaccinations are actually B cells that recognize the disease. They stay in your body forever and they wait for the disease to come. So basically, so that it can produce the antibodies for it. Vaccinations do not work when the diseases mutate often. Okay, another term we did was antibiotics. Antibiotics are specific. They work on specific bacterial infections. They are chemicals that kill the bacteria but do not affect the other cells in the body. Antibiotics, or antibodies, are produced by white blood cells to fight antigens, which are bacteria, viruses, or toxins. Antibodies bind to the antigen on these blood cells and then stops the antigen's movement. There are 5 classes of antibodies. IgA are ones in your mucus. They're found in saliva, tears, and breast milk. IgD activates the basophils. IgE are allergies and parasitic worms. IgM eliminates pathogens in the early stages, and IgG works as a major antibody that crosses through the placenta. And if you didn't see this, Ig stands for immunoglobulin. All right, the last thing is lymph. Lymph is a clear liquid that bathes the cells. It is the blood that is the blood without the red blood cells and the white blood cells in it. There are lymph nodes in the neck. They swell with bacteria when there's an infection. So when you go to the doctor, they always feel your neck. They're feeling for those lymph nodes that they're swollen so that they know it's kind of a hint that that's a bacterial infection. Okay, so here's a picture of the lymph nodes and the neck that the doctors feel when you're sick. Here's another picture of when they're swollen. And they also can show up in your armpits. Okay. All right, diseases of the immune system. First one's AIDS. We learned that already. It's a virus that destroys specific T cells. Lupus. Antibodies are created against a person's DNA. And allergies is an excessive activation of IgE resulting in an inflammatory response. That finishes the podcast.